And we're back to Photoshop, day 3. Let's check out the layers menu and how we can use it. If you can't see it, just go to Window and click on layers right here. So you can check and uncheck it to make it visible or invisible. By default, you might see a background with this lock icon. If you double click on it, this menu will open. Just confirm and the lock icon will vanish. This simply means that when it's locked, you can't really change it. And when it's unlocked, you can change the background. It was also given a different name. It's called layer 0 now, but that doesn't have to concern us. When you create, for example, a rectangle, it gets its own layer. Same for ellipses, triangles, all of that. Most elements in Photoshop get their own layer by default. And we just give that a different color using the properties menu under fill. And you can see I have to click on the specific layer for these different shapes, so triangle, ellipse, rectangle, and then I can change the fill for each. We have a visible and invisible icon here, so you can make all of your layers visible or make them vanish. For the background, if I make it invisible, we'll get this checkerboard design, which is always an indicator of transparency. So whenever you see that, your exported file will have a transparent area where the checkerboard is. Important to understand in Photoshop is that these layers are also a stacking order. So right now the triangle is on top of the rectangle, but I can left click drag the rectangle on top by simply dragging its layer on top. And this obviously goes for the ellipse as well. Important is the opacity right here. Let me put the rectangle on top of the triangle, and now I reduce the opacity for the rectangle layer. And this blends it now through, so we can see parts of the triangle again. But if I inverse the order here, put the triangle to top, this has the opacity of 100%, therefore it completely blocks, completely overpaints the triangle. So we can go down and up with the opacity for each layer. Same goes for the fill. If you're a total beginner, I would advise you to use the opacity primarily. To the left of the opacity, we've got the blending modes. By default, should be set to normal, but you can cycle through that. And in principle, these blending modes affect different colors of your layer and then blend them with what is beneath. In our case, the rectangle is being blended with the triangle. And this gives us basically this third color, at least when we use multiply. When we return to normal, there is no blend. The blending modes are also something that I'm going to talk about in its specific video. Good news is that when you just hover over it, you can already see the effect applied. So you don't need much explanation, just try them out and you can see the effect in real time. At the bottom right, we have a trash icon to delete a layer. Just click on it, top layer or the selected layer will be gone. Right next to it is a plus sign to create a new layer. As I've said, most elements get their own layer by default. Same goes, for example, for text. I add a text element here, and this makes our last layer actually vanish. And we have the text on its own element in the layers menu. But there are some elements that need a new layer. Maybe, for example, with rectangle, we have a layer. But now I click on the plus sign to create a new empty layer, layer 1. And I can, for example, now let me use the brush tool. I press B for it. And now I left click drag. And this is now positioned on this new layer 1. So some elements, they need you to create a new layer first, or otherwise they won't be on their own layer. For example, everything that you draw with the brush tool. And again, this works like all other layers that we've had so far. So you can adjust the stacking order here. Next to the plus sign is a folder and is for grouping. So if I left click on a layer, then I hold shift and I click on another layer. Both of these layers are selected. I click on the folder and now both selected layers are grouped in a folder called group 1. Sometimes it's necessary to group things so that you can apply effects to multiple objects at once. Then we have an option for adjustment layers. This is again something I'm going to dedicate videos to because every adjustment layer has its own features. I want to talk about that in detail. Then we have the layer mask, which certainly gets lots of videos, and we have FX, which are effects. What you should take away from this video when you're a beginner is you can give every element in Photoshop its own layer and then treat these layers like a stacking order. You can blend them using the opacity and the different blending modes. I hope this video was helpful, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.